It's Monday. We're still alive. It was a bumpy week last week. And just
What's up, guys?
Up until, I think, over the last 2.5 days, Bitcoin added $7,500. But it's reverted a little bit this morning. But we have some things going on in the market that are impacting us. Yes, November is still down 3%, but it's not catastrophic. But before we jump into all the top stories that are on your minds, let's go around the horn. Mando, alive and well?
Alive and well, yes. I actually touched grass for this weekend, but I did tune into the market for the weekly close, and we did close above that 103K level, which is, I think, pretty important for keeping the bull market intact. So, well, if you still call this a bull market, given alts have been decimated, but I thought that was very good for the market structure. Even with sentiment this bad, we managed to stay above the 50-week moving average, and I think it's looking okay now.
Exactly. I was getting a bit nervous, Mando, with that 76K level. You get to 70 or 96, 95.8, 96. If we broke that, I think a lot of people would hit some stop losses. CTO, how about you?
I'm good. Great week.
Last week you were confused. You didn't know if we we're going up or down.
I was concerned last week, guys, as you probably remember, and we did dump quite a bit the day after on Tuesday. So yeah, we will look at charts later.
Yeah, in fact, over 4 days, I think we hit 98K 4 times. So it's just somebody's snooping in there to buy. And Marty, what do you make of all of this with your new Meta glasses?
Yeah, no, I think everything's going to schedule. If you follow my high time frame, remember there's a trend line. We started in January 2024 with some kind of monetary policy shift. I believe it's the Moran cycle. Remember the short cycles? And we usually drop 9 to 10% below the trend line. And Bitcoin did that exactly to the automatic reaction on a Wyckoff at 98.8 and is bouncing back towards the trend line. And that's the beginning of the markup, which correlates with the December 1st Jerome Powell announcement about the interquarter tightening, the government miraculously voting for the first time on a Sunday night to reopen on a Tuesday vote, which looks like they have the votes now. So there's an acceleration towards expansion. An expansion, I believe, will start around the beginning of the year, just like it did January 1st, 2024. I believe January 1st, 2026 will be the beginning of a large expansion into stablecoin, gold, Bitcoin, and monetary policy change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because we'll break all that down a little bit later. But when we look at the macro tailwinds in terms of QT ending, rate cuts, Stimmy checks, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you saw Stimmy checks. Yep.
Yeah, the Stimmy checks reminds me of C19.
That started the bull run, James. The Stimmy checks was the beginning, right?
I know. It's incredible.
That's the signal.
Yeah. Helicopter money is back. I never thought we'd see it again, but that's how crazy the world is.
The CFTC news, on a Sunday, Caroline Pham, acting chair of the CFTC, announced that they are going above congressional authority to continue trying to pass market structure. Like they're literally going against the government.
Yeah,
they know it's so important.
We'll get to that in a minute. And before I start, links below for the gang here. You can watch us on all their channels, whatever you care. But
let's go.
Shout out to Mando. Links below, and make sure you follow these legends. And a big thank you to the moderators, Team Tesla, Sean D, K8 for being here. Let's talk about our little story and see what's going on in the world. Well, this one's called Whales versus Quantum, but there's a lot more we're going to discuss. Before we get into the big crypto stuff, there is little to no interest in crypto. This is Google Trends live for the last 5 years. We're literally at all-time lows. Bitcoin's a shade higher, but the problem is nobody has any interest. And the question is this because of that big liquidation event, or just people have no money, or people are just jaded? And I had a weird theory for quite a while that people were rotating out of crypto into AI because it was a new shiny thing. Now AI is showing signs of bubbles. Maybe people are going to rotate back. I'd like your thoughts on that a little bit later. But at the same time as well, sentiment from the University of Michigan, which used to be the best sentiment indicator on the planet, is in the toilet. We are at the lows since the year 2008, pre-global financial crisis. This, to many people, is alarming, or is it just BS? Let's talk sentiment. Mando, is the sentiment in the toilet? Are people checked out, or is all the data wrong?
I think that's true, but that should be a good thing. Bitcoin's at 106K, 105K, and sentiment's this bad. That would be a very good sign for me. It's not like we're at some euphoric sentiment sort of point. And this is kind of what we've been saying, that this doesn't feel like a top, because sentiment is not that bad at tops. Normally sentiment is absolutely euphoric. So the fact that everyone thinks we're about to roll over and you should have no risk means that even if that were to happen, even if let's say we got a bit of a macro sell-off, I think crypto positioning is much lighter than it has been. And I think that is a good sign for the market here. So I look at that and I feel very bullish. That's one of the main bull things that I've been saying on this show, is that I think that sentiment's so bad that that we're due a bounce.
Yeah, interesting. CTO, what do you think of risk, fear and greed, and consumer sentiment, and no interest in Google Trends and crypto? And I think Mando's point is excellent. Nobody gives a crap, and we're still really high.
Definitely. I mean, overall on the Bitcoin market, I think, Mando, you were the one who's articulated it first. It's the OG whales are selling, and they're selling to the institutions. So it's like a change of guard, if you will. And the only reason we haven't dumped way further down when the whales are selling those kind of volumes is because there is actually a buyer. It's the Wall Street guys buying. So I think that's the overall picture. In terms of retail, they don't matter as much as they did before, because these are very big money numbers, and I think retail has less impact. Retail also are, they want to make a lot of money fast, and it's very difficult to do that with Bitcoin at these levels. Like, Bitcoin isn't going to go from 100,000 now to 1 million in 2 weeks. That is a very unlikely scenario to happen. But that's what retail want, and that's the interest in altcoins. But altcoins have been terrible this year. It has been nothing but chop and fake outs and everything that seems to have, actually go somewhere, fade, and, start dropping again. And so it's been a very bad year for altcoins overall, compared to most other years where it has been easier to find setups. And I think that's what reflected in the statistics we see here. Like, the interest is less because it's hard to find altcoins that are going up. There's one Zcash, and then there's like 999 that's not going anywhere. While if we backtrack, it was easier to find those kind of coins. I actually went back and checked some meme coin portfolios that were put together a year ago. I think it was like 40 coins. They were all in downtrend, 40 out of 40, every single one. And it's made it harder. And then retail is less interesting. They're interested, they're checking out, they're quitting the game. And when everyone's quit, that's usually when it starts running in the other direction. So that's my take on the market overall. We'll look at some charts later, I'm sure.
Yeah, in fact, this is an interesting dashboard. It shows the distance from all-time high for all of the top cryptos. And I used to say for years that if you are, at this stage of the bull run, if you're 60% away from all-time high, you're never going to achieve a new all-time high. And there are so many, this is a top 50 cryptos. There are, like, the vast majority, 70% of them are above 60% from all-time highs. So they're all getting hammered. You got the Aves, the Cardanos, the Aptos, Avalanche, Bitcoin Cash, CRO, Doge, Polkadot, ENA, Ethereum Classic, Filecoin, ICP, Near, Pol, SHIB, Uniswap, etc. It's been brutal out there. So that is a very good point, CTO, regarding the state of the union. And there are select names doing very well, like the Zcash of the world, which we'll talk about later as to why that's happening. But you're dead right. It's been brutal for alts. Marty, what's your take on the whole situation? Sentiment in the toilet? Do you believe in Mando's thesis that it's actually a good thing?
I'm a long trader, so I believe in the asset class. I believe in the technology. So to me, capitulation is my buy signal. I wait for people to be, for rope to sell out at Home Depot and for people to be negative, because that's your buy signal. It's an expansion, right? An expansion is a cycle. It's not the 4-year cycle anymore. Since 2024, I call it the Moran cycle. Stephen Moran wrote this whole entire playbook. Basically, fiat is there's expansion. Fiat pours in, price moons for a couple of weeks through ETF inflows, Fed liquidity, nation buys, corporate treasuries. Okay, and then there's contraction, the shakeout, and that's like early buyers who are selling to take profits, and that's been extremely heavy at 125. Then there's leveraged longs getting wrecked. Look, October 10th, right? Then there's exchanges auto-liquidating like shorts, like you saw that as well. And more shorts pile in. And then the price will retrace 50% of that expansion. That's the cycle. And then capital flees back to dollars temporarily. USDT will spike. So will the DXY. And that repeats. And it's accelerating very fast. It was a year, then 6 months. Now it's 3 months. And it's the same fractal every time it happens. It's basically, that's the playbook. It's an oscillation. So you want to enter at the, absolute time-based capitulation when people are giving up. When people are giving up is the next liquidity expansion called a markup. And I predicted it at 98.8, and it looks like it started. So it's the same fractal. That's my opinion. As far as the other altcoins go, first of all, I think before market structure, there's never been a time when there's a decoupling between fundamental value and the price in dollars. James, you're a huge believer of this, right? It's the same as Tesla versus Tesla stock. Completely decoupled through manipulation and control. And so I think in crypto, before market structure, it's the worst it's ever going to be. So you're going to see a lot of these sort of like, dino coins, other narratives, whoever's got the biggest showboat, whoever's got the biggest marketing budget, whoever has the biggest army, it's going to be extracting liquidity out of a speculative market, right? That's a whole different domain from assets and fundamental value, which, I'm more about. I like software. I bet on the software. I don't care about the dollar price. For me, is manipulated at this stage. Anyway, there's no structure. There's no regulation. So why wouldn't you? You'd manipulate the price if you could. Who wouldn't? If you benefit. So I think when the market structure passes, which is promised before the end of the year, which was very dependent on the shutdown, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think the market structure of crypto is a direct attack on the banking industry and the Fed itself, and is faced with backlash through the form of shutdown. And I think this shutdown movement means market structure movement means that fundamental will return, and I think revaluation is coming in altcoins. And everybody who made money during this time of speculation, well done. I made money speculating, but I think there'll be a return to fundamental value in our asset class, in blockchain usage, adoption, revenue. You talk about it all the time. Whatever software is making the most money, revenue will be the most valuable. Full stop. It's just like a business. And the software, the life cycle, the team, the developers, things like that, the integration into the corporate infrastructure, like we see with Venmo, Wells Fargo. I mean, we're seeing it happen.
We'll get to that in a minute, but let's talk about the macro setup before we move on, because this is very important. So this is some notes from 10 hours ago. Again, the price is different a little bit now, but Stimmy checks. I thought it was a fake tweet when I saw it over the weekend, but it's happening. $2,000 per person. By the way, I never ever got a Stimmy check in my life, and I know people who are like billionaires and they got them. So I don't know. Maybe the government doesn't have my address, which is probably a good thing. QT is ending, which means QE is basically starting, and stealth QE is actually happening. Rate cuts are happening. We've had 2 already, probably a third, 65% chance of a third in December. The Chinese money printing is through the roof. I don't know how that's going to impact where we are here. And the US government is going to reopen, which means the TG&A account will be flushing the system with money. People will be getting paid. All of this is good stuff. Mando, do you see any dark clouds on the horizon through the end of the year?
On a macro level, less so, as in we've drifted away from correlation to gold and to stocks and to money printing for a while now. So if anything, we've got a bit of a catch-up trade to go. The other side of that is that we could see, rather than us go up, those assets start to come down. And there's been some, not on the money printing side, but definitely on the AI stock side, it's felt over the last 2 weeks to be a bit more shaky, right? We've had a couple of pretty bad days on the NASDAQ. Certain stocks doing okay, some aren't. There's, I think, some of the headlines about, like, well, maybe they were misquoted, but bailouts for some of these AI companies were just kind of wild. And I think there's just like a bit of, we've extended for so long now, frothiness. I don't think it's turning around or going to be a deep sell-off or anything like that, but I do think you get getting a little bit of worry there. So that's the only worry I'd have right now. Macro setup would be that we get a wobble in AI stocks, which simultaneously causes a wobble in US stocks. It may be controversial, but I don't think that would cause a crypto sell-off. I don't.
And many people, including myself, guilty, were excited by the historic track of global M2 and Bitcoin price, but that is now in shambles. Marty, do you think it still has legs?
I think so. I haven't changed. I think it's still the same. I think ultimately it's the same. The AI macro narrative of 2025. It's still the same. I think it's real. What's your thought, James? I mean, you're heavily in Tesla and AI, right?
Money floats all boats. When global M2 goes up, and Mando knows this very well as well, it floats everything. There are other external factors.
What is your number? What do you think is the number they're going to print? Because that to me is what I fixate on.
Oh, trillions. At least another 3 to 5
they
trillion.
Printed 7 trillion in COVID. They printed 9 trillion in the great financial crisis. What number are they going to print? 9, 7?
Well, the base is now 38 trillion. And the US M2 supply has gone up over time as well. It just broke a new all-time high. So easy 3, 5, 7 trillion will be added. And
I think the question is how, if somebody gets new liquidity, a regular person, a fund, a rich person, a poor person, whatever, how are they going to allocate to what assets?
Well, I think if
where they need assets, how are they going to allocate is the question.
Well, you know my thoughts on that. I go after the biggest TAMs and the winners in those biggest TAMs. That's where the money is. And a lot of people, like in the last cycle, people believe money was in money, like Bitcoin. That was the biggest TAM, but it's no longer the case with this new revolution that's hitting us. But anyway, that's global M2. Let's get back to another very interesting story, and I'd like your thoughts on this as well. CTO, OG whales selling, everybody freaking out. We know they've been selling a lot. Many different charts on this, and they actually accelerated over the past 3 months in a big way. They've been dumping the largest amount ever, and these are all the 10,000 plus OG whales, and they've been selling. But Willy Woo has a theory that they're not actually selling to dump. Of course, some of them are definitely taking lifestyle chips, but there's a cohort that you can see on chain. They're actually moving stuff around because Taproot addresses were apparently vulnerable to quantum long-range attacks, and SegWit, the light blue stuff, are quantum resistant if it's in a clean address without any reuse. So there is a theory from Willy Woo and CryptoQuant, I think, or Glassnode, that the OG coins may be doing some house cleaning and making their bags more secure. CTO, as a technologist, does that make any sense to you?
Oh, it absolutely makes sense. And I mean, this is the problem with the on-chain analytics, like that chart you showed earlier with the vertical lines saying that they are selling.
Yep.
We don't know that. The only thing it shows is that they moved the coins. And the rest is all speculation. So the OG whales dumping there at the top left may or may not be true. We don't know for sure. So for sure, there is an element of that, because the early addresses do have a problem that the new addresses don't have. So,
I mean, yeah, when you're done, I can explain technically exactly why a SegWit address, is it quantum proof or not? And you'll understand.
Exactly. I mean, bottom line is that the old addresses you can work on as long as you want, while the new addresses you can only try to crack during the transfer, which is a much shorter window. So it can absolutely be that. But I think I wanted to add one thing, that there's different types of people. There is the OG whales. Some of them have probably been selling, at least, Mando met one, there may be more of them, right? So, and then the institutions who are buying, we can see the ETFs, and then there's some other people doing some other things, and for different reasons. But the sum of it all, we can see in the chart.
Yeah.
That is what the chart is. And there has been people selling. Otherwise, the price wouldn't have gone down. So that is a fact. So in a way, we can see the sum of all those things here. There has been weakness. Price has gone down. And it's not going to go to 1 million overnight. Historically, typically it finds new strength, it builds new momentum, and all the optimism is coming back. All those people who were selling, they're buying back. The institutions, it's fun to see. Like on a down day, there's typically outflow. On an in day, there's typically inflow. It seems to me that they're not so much different from everyone else. These very intelligent institutions, they will FOMO buy as price starts running up for sure. So I think we will see it. We will see if price regains its footing and begins trending up again or not. That's my take. I want to show a chart later, but let's finish this point. Marty, over to you.
Yeah, just quickly, so people understand, I think education is important. The SegWit addresses, are they quantum proof? The short answer is no. Moving it to a SegWit address doesn't necessarily make it quantum proof. But the movement of it is important. With SegWit, if you move between SegWit addresses, so you'll probably see a lot of movement going forward. You'll move your Bitcoin from one SegWit to a new wallet. You should actually, in proper SegWit practice from Bitcoin, every time you do a large transfer, you should use a new wallet. That is the way to mitigate against quantum attack with SegWit. So not just having it in a single SegWit address, but once you're in a SegWit address, you can move between SegWits very much more efficiently. So getting it into the SegWit addresses is the beginning of being able to mitigate against quantum attack. That's pretty much the technical answer. It's because of the Shor's algorithm, the elliptical curve cryptography and quantum. Anyway, that's the short answer. So I agree with Willie. I think that a lot of the time, we conflate movement of assets in crypto to selling, which is very ignorant. Movement of assets is a large percentage of activity, not necessarily selling. Whether they're sold in a centralized environment, you don't know. It's opaque. We have no access to it. It's not on chain. So we don't know. The movement is part of crypto. We can't just assume it's selling. So I agree with him there. I like that take. I think people are moving a lot of Bitcoin from old addresses, which are extremely vulnerable to quantum, to the SegWit Bitcoin address network, which is more quantum resistant if used properly.
And I don't know who Ben is, but if Ben is right, there's a huge rally soon. So a little bit of hopium there for the day.
Here we go.
All right, let's get back to our agenda. So we do have some other good news. Why we even care is bizarre, but the U.S. government, they're close to a deal. They have a meeting tomorrow that might be reopened by Wednesday, which means a ton of money. People will get paid who have worked for the government, and then they're going to FOMO that all into Bitcoin and crypto. I don't know, but it definitely sucks a lot of oxygen out of the system. And then there's talk of that TGA, which will be unleashed, which will be great for the market. And I have a funny feeling that despite the Chinese printing a lot of money, the TGA being quiet and shut down basically because of the US government, that had a huge impact on the markets in general. Very big. So, and the 2000 Stimmy check, will it happen? Some people say it'll never happen. I don't know. I don't really care. But either way, it is setting us up for what could be a potential year-end rally. But let's see what the chart says. CTO, what do you see happening in Bitcoin? Any positive signs? Do you have confirmation that we're going up from here? Last week you were in no man's land. You didn't know if we're going up or down. What do you see? I think you might be muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I took some flack last Monday for being unnecessarily bearish, as someone wrote, but we actually did dump the day after here on the Tuesday. So I got concerned here when this felt like a fake out. This was in the first week of October. This felt like a fake. And then 1010 was this mega cascade, which it doesn't look so much in Bitcoin, but that wiped out a lot of people. It was the biggest crypto liquidation in history. That was this day, where a lot of altcoins went down like 70, 80, 90% and liquidated a lot of people. And this felt like a setup for that. This felt like an intentional, orchestrated head fake just above previous all-time high to get people bullish, and then just a couple of days later, run this orchestrated dump. And then the weakness did continue after that. So the trend that I use kind of turned down here around 21st of October, 22nd October, and we did go lower from that. And I think now is the only, I should say, now is the first positive sign after that. And that is that the 100K level, there clearly was some buying interest there. If you look at these wicks here, guys, that means that when price goes down, boom, someone buys it back up. Goes down again, boom, buys it back up. Down again, third day, boom, back up. Down again, fourth day, boom, back up. And then now it actually cleared that level and moved up a little bit higher. So this means that at least so far, there has been support and buying interest here around the magic level 100K. Everyone remembers 100,000. A lot of people will have thought, if Bitcoin ever goes to 100,000 again, I'm going to buy it. And that's what we see here. So, but now it needs to follow through. And I would say we don't know that yet. We don't know if this will rally back up here or if it's not enough. But this is a positive sign, and it's the first really positive sign in a while that we have seen basically since a month ago, over a month ago when we had this head fake. So, but what we need to see also is that because stocks are on a tear here today, and if we compare Bitcoin to stocks, it's still not a pretty picture. This is like going in this direction, meaning Bitcoin versus stocks is heading down here. We had some positive signs in Bitcoin versus gold that it bounced, but now it's almost back down there again. So we haven't really seen the follow through yet that we need to see. Bitcoin need to regain its footing. And the reason I'm not stressed is that I don't think it's going to shoot up here overnight. I think if this is indeed a turnaround, we're going to see it. It's going to build momentum. It's going to reclaim these levels. And my bet is at least that there will be plenty of time to get crazy bullish before we start running off to the races again. I think there's a chance that we continue with chop for some time. The Bulls versus the Bears football game continuing a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, that's what we hope. And Q4 is always very strong, but we did have these interruptions. And again, that US government shutdown, a lot of macro uncertainty, a lot of job losses, no confidence. These are all kicks in the teeth, which have affected people jumping into the market. Let's talk a little bit about a couple more quick items. And this one is Clarity Act. Marty, you mentioned this briefly at the beginning. There are wars happening between the SEC and the CFTC, and unlocking this crypto clarity will be very good because obviously the old SEC was very bad, regulation by enforcement, splitting crypto into commodity securities and stablecoins. Basically, everything is a commodity under the eyes of this new law. Stablecoins are stablecoins, and there are a couple of things that might be securities. And I think CFTC would be great. SEC is just for fundraising, but then there are companies raising money using crypto now. So it's weird.
The most important thing about the Clarity Act at the highest level is just remember, crypto tokens are what the word means, tokens. They're simple technical representations of something that may exist in the real world or may exist in the digital closed loop, right? There's two closed loops. There's on software running on the internet, and then there's in the human world in a filing cabinet. A token can represent, a legal obligation, ownership, a title to a property, or it can represent something technically like gas token on a blockchain, the native token, things like that. So there needs to be a very clear separation in how legally and a regulatory capture, those two streams they're two very different things. It's like two different departments. And that's the real Clarity Act, is to start off by redefining what is a commodity and what is a security. And crypto is not just a security. Crypto is a commodity. If it is a commodity, if it's globally fungible, open source, sufficiently decentralized with a high Nakamoto coefficient, it's a commodity. And Bitcoin is a commodity now in the US, Ethereum is, Solana and XRP. Those four have been deemed commodities with their ETF, spot ETFs. So those are commodities, and the CFTC will regulate them.
Security. I always say, just to interrupt you there, I said, if XRP is not a security, I don't know what is, because
no. Well, you see how there already is some issues. That's why there's so much turmoil in this Clarity Act.
Yeah.
But the SEC's responsibility will be very different. Only if I make a token which I deem as a founder is a security, should I then have a registration process as a security. Basically, my token represents the work of a team of people against a business plan with some kind of promises to shareholders. That's a security, and it should be regulated as such. But within the technical DeFi world, within the blockchains, they are not securities, they're commodities. And I think, yes, the Ripple question is a huge question. What is Ripple's involvement? Does XRP represent the work of others? Is XRP a promise of something in the future? And I think a lot of these things are still unknown, although at the end of the day, the Clarity Act will put a rubber stamp and say this is the way it is. And then the most important thing is, once it becomes something under the CFTC, a commodity, it adopts the 1934 rules on commodity trading. So the exchanges need to be registered and licensed and surveilled based on the CFTC rules and the SEC rules, which includes wash trading, manipulation, customer protection, scams. All of these things will become crimes.
Yeah, but the other interesting thing, though, is when you look at the body count, SEC has, I think, 4,500 people. CFTC has 600 people. Yep. So the CFTC can't do a lot of enforcement with that body count, perhaps, but the SEC has to look at a lot of stocks. So it's going to be tricky. Either way, this Clarity Act will bring clarity to crypto, and it'll be good for the space, which is wonderful.
If the US want to be the global crypto leader, like the president wants, then this market structure basically forms the guidelines on which that takes place. Yeah. So I think it's in a critical monetary, political, financial, trade. It affects everything, and that's why there's a lot of roadblocks and a lot of turmoil right now. But once it's over, guys, I think we see a renaissance in our asset class.
Yeah. And the ETH has a new upgrade, Fusaka, which is going to solve world hunger. Mando, you know anything about this one? It says it's going to be a little bit faster, new blob sizes, lower fees, yada, yada. But then when you take this into account, you now have 5 Solana chains, just dApps on Solana, that make more money than the entire ETH chain altogether. That is pretty mind-blowing, especially this new thing called Ore Protocol, making over $500,000 a day. Does Vitalik have the answer here, or is it just yet another band-aid on a sinking ship?
Yeah.
Now, and I say that because 15 TPS isn't going to cut it. They need to get to like 1,500 at least. They need 100 extra.
This isn't going to solve whatever this upgrade is. As far as I could tell, it was mainly just gas changes and, like you said, some changes to blob size. I don't think this is going to be the bigger changes that they're planning. I think I would just look at this at the pace of upgrades is slightly picking up. We still have that narrative from the start of this year that the ETH Foundation is being a bit more aggressive around stuff. I think that's relatively good. I don't think many people are bullish on ETH because of this, though. I think ETH for now is mainly still a Tom Lee institutional adoption trade than it is necessarily around these sort of base layer upgrades for now.
Yeah, and he better keep talking. And I want ETH to succeed because that will also float all boats. But his average price in Bitmine is like $4,200, and ETH's at $3,500. His fund is deep underwater.
ETH's going to 50K though, right? So he's fine.
Exactly. For Christmas. Strap on, boys. It's going to be good. CTO, any thoughts on this Fusaka upgrade? Is it going to solve world hunger?
I don't think it's so important. I can show the chart 1 second on ETH. It's not looking great, guys.
Okay, boom. Hang on, I got to go back to us and then there.
So this is ETH to BTC. This is a classic head and shoulders pattern, and it's below the neckline, sloping down. Trend has turned down. Couldn't possibly look any worse, honestly.
Yeah.
Of course, this is ETH versus Bitcoin, but ETH USD, little bit hope, perhaps it bounced here, but the trend is down. So, I mean, the burden of proof is really on the bulls to turn this around. And it's, I think, the same thing. If momentum comes back to ETH, it's not so much on technical merits. It's more like, okay, it's like Cathy Wood started talking about it, that the use case of Bitcoin, she sees part of that being taken by stable coins, and that will kind of support then the programming network, which is the biggest one is ETH. So, and then end of story. No one goes into the technicals. No one compares the networks really. But that would be the narrative that it could pump on. But right now it's not. This is a top pattern in the chart. So before it can start talking about going places, it needs to at least invalidate the top pattern, which would be here at 0.038 Bitcoin, something like that. So right now it's down.
Yeah. And what's also interesting about this is two chains. Solana and Hyperliquid make 63% of all crypto revenue. So, Marty, back to your point earlier, if revenue is a thing, and if a chain is a function of adoption and how much money they make, ETH has a lot of headwinds. People talk, oh, but they have stable coins and a lot is staked. Yeah, no, it's not exactly.
Yeah,
I'm not digging
things.
ETH, but it's
Definitely. The Fusaka hard fork is way more consequential than has been narrated by Tom Lee and Ethereum. It's a hard fork. Basically, the network will be down. Blocks will not be produced across all validators. So one could simply narrate this as Ethereum is going down. Okay, but it's not. As you can see, the narrative is very smooth. Fusaka is a hard fork, which is intended to integrate the L1 with the L2s in a more architecturally sound way. So it's a full commitment to the L2 methodology. Basically, because they have 5 validators, Geth, Nevermind, Besu, Aragon, and Reth, Ethereum can stay up and just slowly each validator set upgrades. So it's not narrated as a full shutdown. But ultimately, all validators will have to stop and start. So if you're a validator and you run a node or a validator on Ethereum, you have to update the client now. If you're just holding ETH, you don't have to do anything. If you hold L2s, you don't have to do anything. And if you're a developer, you need to learn Sepolia and the deployed fork changes to the languages. So that's what's going on. So it's extremely risky. You can test it all you want, but in reality, these things are extremely scary. You can remember Solana's hard forks were narrated as the chain went down, and it's still a narrative people will use. So you have to be very careful. So it's a marketing juggling match. But Ethereum is upgrading and hard forking. In other words, the code is changing. All validators will have to stop running and start a new version of Ethereum. So this is the 4th fork of Ethereum.
awesome.
And then the other question was very key, obviously. I think revenue is now a big question. Will Ethereum and the L2 networks report revenue as one thing, which is, the liquidity issue on Ethereum right now? Like, does Base have its own liquidity, or is it Ethereum's liquidity? And all of this integration and Fusaka will start to answer those questions.
Yeah. And fingers crossed they can change the wings on the plane without it crashing, because that would not be good.
Well,
for
I mean,
the
if Base makes its own token, then I think Ethereum's in big trouble.
Yeah.
That's
Let's
the way it is.
switch gears. Let's go talk about rotation all season and a reality check here. Let's be firm. I showed you the distance from all-time highs from many of the alts. It is not good. Crypto market cap lost $700 billion over the past couple of weeks. Not good. People are absolutely losing their minds. Those that don't have a position in Bitcoin and they're all in high-risk alts are borderline suicidal. In some cases, they're very, very upset. Mando, quick yes or no? Old season, dead or alive? Still to come.
I mean, the chart that we just showed, which was ETH versus Bitcoin, I think you could do that for pretty much every altcoin, particularly every L1, and it's not pretty. So I think a lot of them broke on 1010, broke down pretty violently, and they've been kind of bleeding since. Bitcoin dominance did go up to about 61%. It's still now back at like 60%, but I like Bitcoin until it starts breaking out above 110K, maybe even close towards all-time high. I think right now, if you've just been in Bitcoin, it's gone from 123, 124 all-time high to 105, 106K. Like, it's a 15% move. You shouldn't really have been freaking out too much. At the moment, Bitcoin moves 1%, and the bid for alts is horrific in that there just doesn't seem to be depth in the order book after 1010 for a lot of this sort of stuff. And I think people are very wary of them at the moment. So what we have seen is a lot of, as CTO said, a lot of false breakouts. Things look like they're about to break out and they get smashed lower. The only exception to that has been kind of Zcash most recently, although even that now looks like it's now kind of entering maybe a period of consolidation. It's a very dangerous moment to be too focused on alts. I think let's wait until, I think after Thanksgiving, hopefully we've got another month or so of chop, and then hopefully Bitcoin then breaks above like 110, 115K.
And speaking of alts, one has absolutely crushed it. Thank you for that, Mando. Zcash. This thing has gone from sub 100 to nearly 600 in a very short window of time. A big part of it is Mert. I spelled his name wrong there. Sorry, Mert. Friend of the channel. You were on with Mert last week as well, Mando. He's been shilling the hell out of it. And he has a lot of people in there. So there's a lot of things now. Why is privacy so hot? Is it because, guess who's back? Lagarde. There are new laws in Europe, and I'd love to see a breakdown. I don't know, CTO, if you know who is buying Zcash. Is it Europeans? Because of all the threats of CBDCs, it'll be illegal to move 10,000 euros in cash. You know, sometimes I literally pay contractors 10,000 euros in cash just to do a quick job because I get discount. They want to track every transaction. They also want to track Bitcoin movements in Europe. AML laws will treat all citizens as suspects, which means they can spy on you. And the CBDC is coming in 2029. They obviously had some big technical problems because they wanted to launch it before the end of this year. That didn't happen. And it's so all about protecting us from crime. 847 days left till cash freedom dies. CTO, is this what's pumping privacy coins?
Before we answer that, I had one insight that one thing they could do to get everyone on their CBDC is to introduce an ID requirement on every crypto transaction.
Which are,
if they could make it so inconvenient and so dangerous, because if you have to post your ID every time you do a crypto transaction, those IDs end up in 100
honeypot
different companies who have all their customer support in China and India, and it doesn't cost that much to buy that database. So then you have the database of everyone's IDs and home addresses and how much they have in their wallet addresses. And then you can drive around, rob all of them in a nice, convenient way.
So you're saying the government can't keep things secure? Of course not.
Absolutely cannot. And I mean, it's not even the government, right? They've just forced it on different companies. The companies cannot keep it secure. That we know. They've leaked all over the place. Even from like the best companies we have in the industry, like Coinbase, Ledger, and so on. It's leaked from them. Then imagine the rest of the list, the next 100, company 99 on that list. Are they going to keep it safe? Probably not, right? So this is going to end up everywhere. Then no one dares to use crypto, and they force everyone onto CBDC. If you were like an evil dictator and you can't politically ban crypto because you look like a schmuck then when the president of the United States and his whole family is pumping it. So if you want to still get it banned to get your CBDC in, that was would probably be how you would do it. So I think that's what we have to look out for, see if that is happening. And it feels like it could perhaps be on that path. I doubt this is what's driving the privacy thing, for the simple reason that I don't think Europe is important enough, perhaps, to drive this. I think the market is run from North America and Asia more than from Europe today. So I don't think that's the reason. But then if we move into privacy coins, there's a lot of interesting learnings there, which could perhaps be useful for everyone. I was very passionate about privacy coins perhaps too early, because I felt that crypto's biggest problem today is that it's too public. You can't really use it for business or anything if people can look straight into your wallet, see how much money you have, see all the history, see who you've done business with, who paid what, when, and so on and so forth. It's like too public. You can't do that with a bank account, but you can do it with crypto. And I felt that this doesn't work. It's the HTTP once again. Like nothing on the internet today would work if we didn't have HTTPS. But that was very controversial in the beginning. The US government tried to outlaw it. It was illegal to have too many bits in the SSL protocol and so on and so forth. It's the same discussion as we had with crypto. Then in the end, like 10 years later, everyone realized that actually we need some kind of encryption. This doesn't work, guys. And then we got HTTPS that everyone could use. And I felt the same thing is going to happen with crypto. The problem was that not many other people had that opinion. So a lot of these coins, they went nowhere. Zcash has been around for many years, guys. No one was interested. Monero, no one was interested. There were other projects. There was one that I felt was a very promising project. Those guys worked for 7 years. 7 years, then they gave up 10 months ago because they felt, this is going nowhere and so on. And then suddenly, 2025, October, November, it moons like there is no tomorrow in all the private coins. I don't know what's driving it. I felt, my only guess was that some of those OG Bitcoiners who sold to Wall Street, perhaps they switch over and they want to pump Zcash instead to get back to the ethos. If now Wall Street is, BlackRock is taking over Bitcoin, okay, let's go to the next coin then. Maybe it's Zcash.
Yeah, Mando, do you believe it's possible for individuals like Mert, who's been daily tweeting Zcash for months now? How much power do these, I hate the term, so-called influencers have? I believe a lot.
I don't think, if I was an influencer, I wouldn't have picked Zcash. Let me put it that way. It's been a proof of work coin, of which the vast majority of it has now been mined. It's not got some concentrated supply, which necessarily could go and pump. I mean, there are some concentrated positions in some of the miners, but it's not like influencers have got together on a new pump fund coin and decided to send this. What I think is it's kind of what, and now I will preface that by saying I bought Zcash because Mo was tweeting about it around 100, right? It was picked up on by a range of different people at the same time, but this is a narrative that's been going on for a long time, and a lot of OGs really like it. I think a lot of Bitcoiners look at Zcash unlike how they look at any other altcoin, and that may sound a little bit bombastic, but I think it's because it has a lot of the characteristics of Bitcoin, and because Satoshi was talking about these sort of privacy elements for a while. Like it was a fundamental issue with Bitcoin since the beginning. So they think about it as kind of like, okay, this is a privacy version of Bitcoin, some of them. And it's clear that I think that's been the majority of the buyer base. Like if you look at who have been buying it, have been funds that have been allocated some of their Bitcoin portfolio to Zcash. Now, it does feel a little bit toppy here, I would say. A lot of people have kind of gone into it more recently, and now you have buyers kind of from the meme coin style community are now promoting it. And I think it's going to go through a period of consolidation here, I do. But I do think that privacy as a narrative is a strong one. And I think it's only going to grow over the next 12 to 24 months. You can't look at what we just said with the ECB, where you said 800 days until you lose your privacy, and then not be bullish on Zcash. Like that is only going to get stronger and stronger and stronger as those 800 days go. So it's one of these ones where I would not buy it right now because I think it's going to have to go through a period of time.
It's gone up 2,000% in less than 2 months. It's wild.
It's been a great trade.
Yeah.
But I do think that it is one of the narratives in crypto that will be with us and probably even stronger in a year's time.
Yeah, especially with this Orwellian, well, where is she? This type of move, it's going to make everybody really, okay, I've made my money. How do I secure it from maybe or authoritarian governments taking over? That's, I believe, between the Mertz of the world and this person, that's the sales force for this product. Marty, any quick thoughts on privacy?
Yeah, I mean, as the governments worldwide tighten their crypto rules with like KYC, AML, FAT fee, all these things, just, people are going to want to evade on-chain tracking. It just goes to the narrative of, is transparency important to you? I think the EU is, pushing that transparency is a key part of the new financial system, and that if you're hiding something, there's a reason. And other people are more the cypherpunk origin, which is no money and what we do with our money should have nothing to do with the government. So I think ultimately it's that narrative has popped up again. But then if you look at the actual technical side of it, I think the really interesting thing, firstly, is the comparison to Bitcoin, and then the fact that Zcash on Solana has got so much energy because they're taking, because Zcash is not very fast, not very scalable. It's like Bitcoin, it's proof of work. But if you put it on Solana and bridge it, now you have, really fast cash. That's also private. So Zcash on Solana, I believe, is the use case. Basically, you have Monero, private, off-chain snark-based stuff, so you can't actually see, RCAM doesn't know who you are. It's not like Bitcoin where it's built to be transparent, but it has the speed of Solana. That's why I think Mert got behind it. Like everything, like OR. I think OR is a Solana Foundation test tool to test the Firedancer deployment, which is coming out soon. And then I think that this is Zcash on Solana is a test of privacy on Solana. And will Zcash be used as cash on Solana? Because you can send it in a second.
Yeah, I want to emphasize one thing, that you don't have to be trying to hide something from the government to want to have like HTTPS on your internet transactions. It's the same thing here. You maybe want to hide it from the thieves and the crooks who, could attack you otherwise. Like, there are bad people in the world. It's good to have encryption on your financial data. It's same as like you can't look into other people's bank accounts. You can't look into other people's emails. And then why on earth should you be able to look into other people's actual money wallets? It doesn't make any sense. And I think encryption is a good thing. And I'm kind of surprised that we're sitting here in 2025 and we don't actually have it on the main chains. We don't have it on Ethereum Layer 1. We don't have it on Solana in practice. We don't have it on Bitcoin. So I think that it's good that this narrative is getting new traction. I'm very happy to see it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, there are richest bank account lists available on the black market. We know that there were several bank breaches like the Swiss leaks, the Panama Papers, right? Those things. So knowing who has big bank accounts and their address is already a thing. So I don't know whether knowing that somebody has money is a reason for it to be bad. I think that already exists. I don't think there's much obfuscity in the banking system. I think that data has leaked. Those databases are available. So
yeah, but the difference is that if you go to someone who has money in the bank account with a baseball bat, he's not going to be able to withdraw it. But if you go to someone and you say that I can see that you have, 123,478.90 right now in your Ethereum wallet. Now you send it to me or else.
But I mean, if I have a baseball bat at your head, you just got to go to Wells Fargo with your password and you can send me whatever I need.
It's not so easy to send money out of the bank account immediately.
I just need my password to my Bank of America. What do you mean?
I can barely send like $1,000 before the bank calls me up.
Right, so we're hitting against the limits. Okay, the 10,000 euros, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I do think crypto. Yeah, you have to.
But I think we can see the regulatory hurdles in just this discussion. It's very complicated.
Yeah, the crypto is a double-edged sword. Its power is also its weakness and makes it dangerous. Let's jump into the penultimate story today. DATs, digital asset treasury companies, are getting murdered. Part of this, I believe, is because of the fact that there's been no volatility. So the options action is limited and people are losing interest and people had no liquidity. So they're forced to sell stuff to make margin calls. It always happens every time around. But half of the digital asset treasury companies are now trading at or below their net asset value, which is gone from, Metaplanet was trading at a 25x multiple of their assets at one stage. Now Metaplanet is at, let me get the exact number, basically parity. So everything, all the DATs have fallen away. Mando, as a TradFi guy, what do you say to people with the DATs? Like if you have them from the bear market and your cost basis is like $16 on something like MicroStrategy, you can't sell now. You might as well just hold with NAV premiums being parity. What do you think? Was this just a flash in the pan? They're dead forever. And I made a forecast that said by 2030, all DATs will be trading at parity. There will be no premiums and it'll all be arbed away. And that's exactly what's happened. But it's happened way sooner than expected.
I don't think we have to wait to 2030 for that. In fact, I think the next move is likely that a lot try to start trading discount, and we work out how it gets resolved. I think if you're in MicroStrategy and you're in probably Bitmine, you're probably going to be okay. Like they'll probably still trade at some form of a premium just because people like the management team. But I wouldn't be holding these for the idea that these are going to go back to premium. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, some of them are getting completely slaughtered. Not just the Ethereum DATs, but also the Solana DATs too, like UPEXI, DeFi Dev, Forward, all completely smashed. Marty, I know you're close with the DeFi Dev people. What are they saying?
I think everything is fine if you have genuine.
The most dangerous words in the crypto language.
Remember, the markets are highly disconnected from the fundamentals. Remember, I always say that.
Yeah.
So, from a market perspective, I think that the narrative drives the price. But ultimately, I think these are great buyers of the assets, and it makes perfect sense. Look at Tether. I mean, they custodian US treasuries and make a good amount of money with very few people. So they've proved that this is a highly profitable type of business. The whole question is whether they can realize the yield. So I think the companies that have really, have the gusto, the energy, the skills to do clever strategies using what's available with their commodities, like DeFi lending and smart ways to do it, faster validators, deals with people like Jido, actually generate over NAV, like premium over NAV. Others that don't, I think, will fall by the wayside. But at least they hold the asset. They're a better buyer. They don't cheat the asset, I don't think. So there you go. And the US government with a strategic Bitcoin reserve, I mean, they wrote up 20 years. So they hold it for 20 years. That's their guarantee. So it's just much more secure lockup. I think it's good for the asset class in that way. But definitely we have to go through the cycle, and the cycle means the zombies will probably get eroded.
Awesome. And final topic, AI is not dead, I don't believe. AI has bubbles in select companies like OpenAI, Scam Altman, and stuff like that. I believe they're probably not going to make it, but there's a murderer's row of LLMs out there to take the space. And AI is having a huge impact on the planet. A lot of people are asking now, it's like, this is typical retail. They say, oh, data centers are going to need a lot of energy. How do I play energy? And I think all of the energy stocks, all of the turbine stocks, all of the stocks that do wiring, etc., you name it, memory, cables, concrete, data center construction, they've all popped. So I think it's a little bit too late to chase. But are any of you looking at energy? I personally, Tesla is my all-around energy play, as well as many other plays, autonomy, robots, because their mega packs are in extremely high demand for data centers. But CTO, are you playing any energy around AI revolution, or is it too late to chase these energy stocks? And ABB is a huge one, which I think used to be Swedish.
Yeah, it's a Swedish company. I don't own any. I don't even follow it today. Maybe I should actually. But I mean, I tried to be a little early on this trend with uranium back a couple of years ago.
I remember
It had
that.
the second run.
That's
And
why you glow in the dark.
exactly. And I mean, some of those commodity companies have done really, really well, chemical and so on. But it's like you say, it's starting getting a little bit late. The
Yeah.
thing with trend, they have to get in early on the trend. I think problem many people do is that they wait to the end of the trend and then they jump on it and so on. So it's harder to give any clear, it's interesting when it's actually time to buy. No one is interested. We literally had the biggest uranium spot buyer in the world in my office where I still lived in Sweden. Because he happened to be Swedish, he didn't live in Sweden anymore. He was the biggest spot uranium buyer in the world, and he literally said that price is going to go up. No one was interested in watching that video. Now, like some years later, everyone's interested in asking which energy to play, but it's harder now, I think. Just like James said, he disappeared here, but I'm sure he will be back. Many of them have gone up. Yeah.
I'm personally investing in thorium. So I've moved from uranium. I think that the biggest pumps are over. I think thorium is highly underrated. There's two particular ETFs I look at. Well, I look at Lightbridge Corporation and Idaho Strategic Resources. They're both under, one's 45 million, tiny company. The other 320 million company. That's LTBR and IDR. They both have thorium, their first thorium plants open. If you don't have thorium, it's on the periodic table. It's way more abundant than uranium, much safer. It can be, you can turn it off, the reaction, not like uranium, which goes on forever. And it can't be used for military or weapons. So thorium is the new thing. Now, China has the first thorium working power station. The US actually invented it, but the Chinese stole all the information. But this LTBR, Lightbridge Corporation, they've started, and RDR have started one in Idaho. So those are extremely promising stocks. I see those as billion-dollar stocks.
Yeah. Sorry, I got booted there for a second. I hope everything is fine. I don't know what I think. I had a slight fractional internet outage, but I hope I didn't miss too much. Thorium, yes, and the Chinese.
Let's talk about thorium. Yeah, the Chinese have the advantage.
Chinese
they have.
are just
Idaho company.
Yeah.
I invested, tens of thousands in it. It's out of Idaho. They've just started their first actual plant. They have one working plant. It's really cool. It's called Lemhi Pass. Take a look at it. LEMHI Pass.
And what's crazy is in history, we've seen the direct correlation between GDP per capita and the amount of energy a country produces. And that bodes very bad for the West, because if that holds in the future, the Chinese will be the wealthiest population.
Yeah, and then James, let's just bring it up. Helium-3, if you don't know what it is, it's not found on Earth. It's found only on the moon right now. And the Chinese are mining it on the moon. And it's used to cool quantum computers. Without it, you can't reach the quantum computer production level because of cooling. So you use helium-3. They bring it back to Earth. Take a look at that too.
The Chinese are on the moon?
Yeah, back of the moon.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
It's called the Lunar Holy Grail for clean fusion. Take a look at it.
Wow.
It's the isotope 3He, 2 protons and 1 neutron.
Mando, what are you doing with your energy bags, or do you have any? You got Tesla.
I guess Tesla would be the only real one.
Yeah.
So many of these energy plays are like quasi-government plays at the same time, getting subsidies and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I haven't been playing it.
Plus, it's murder as well. People were saying, "Oh, we should start an energy company." It's like, yeah, have you seen regulations in Europe and the US and places? It's impossible to get anything done. It's a complete monopoly with the government and the fingers in the pockets.
I mean, it's probably good that nuclear power plants aren't private, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they'd be better if they were. But it's you can kind of understand why.
Yeah, we're getting to one question actually. Tax loss harvesting, and then we'll wrap everybody. We're at the hour. This is the time of year where if you are living in a country where you have to pay taxes, it's a good time to what I call empty the closet, to throw all the crap away, take your losses if you have any non-performing assets. Any advice for people around the end of year tax planning, because you don't want to do this on the 29th of December. You want to think about doing it now, especially for those with stocks.
I think most people are reporting losses, which are lovely. You can always write off your losses, guys. Don't forget to do that. Brings your taxable base down.
CTO, any tax advice?
Pay your taxes, guys, is my advice. A lot of people underestimate the tax authority. They think that they're not going to find it.
Yeah,
they will find it. And because at some point you probably will want to withdraw, maybe not today, but maybe 10 years in the future, they're going to go back because it's all on chain. Evidence is there. Pay your taxes, guys. In many countries, you can realistically go to jail for quite small amounts that you have to pay. So
yeah, that's why I always say the best strategy is to buy and hold. Don't sell. The minute you sell, it becomes a taxable event.
I also think that is true, but it's also kind of a trap. Like many altcoins, they drop 90% and then they drop another 90%. Right? It's like no tax saving is worth holding 97% down. I think it's like if the position is in a loss, it's better to cut it and enjoy the tax deduction on the loss rather than holding it to close to zero. This is for altcoins specifically. It's a little different for stocks, which actually have a fundamental evaluation. And if you're like a very hardcore believer in Bitcoin and so on and so forth. But historically, many altcoins have made very shockingly big drops.
Yeah, that's true. Mando, any final harvesting, your plans for the end of the year, or what people do?
I think we're going to have a good end to the year. So if you're going to take your losses, take them now and then buy it back. Yeah, take them now.
So you mean exit and re-enter?
Yeah,
same
exactly.
day? Yeah,
like right now.
yeah, exactly.
I feel like we're going to have a strong end to the year. So,
and I don't know if that applies in Europe or the UK, but I know it still does in the US. Marty, quick check on that. You can still, you can't do a wash sale on stocks, but you can in crypto still.
Yeah, if you have $10 million, you can simply go find an altcoin, buy large quantities, make green candles. Everyone will chase it, sell the top, wait for the dump, buy at the bottom, and land up with more than you had in the beginning. That's wash trading. So that's illegal in the stock market. It's totally legal in crypto for both private individual, for hedge fund, market maker, or exchange. So they're all doing it, and they do it for different reasons. But they'll make that illegal, and obviously it won't be in effect immediately. It takes a while to catch up. But like CTO just said, and for all those people out there that might be doing some malicious work, it's on chain, and eventually they will find you.
Yep. And there are places to park cash too if you have cash. Don't be too fearful of holding cash. Like there's things like STRC and JLP, et cetera, which are all very attractive these days. You remember, it's okay to take 10% or 19% rather than lose money. So
I mean, it depends on your age, James. I always tell people the advice is not general across all age groups. If you're sort of in your 50s or 60s and you're looking to have, to enjoy the rest of your life, take lifestyle chips right now. It's a great time.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah,
if you're young and you're still working and you can still accumulate, don't sell a damn thing. Buy more right now at the macro bottom. Right
exactly.
Now.
That's an important point. Your risk tolerance, depending on, I always talk about risk tolerance. When you have no money, you can take on a lot of risk. When you have medium money, you got to become a risk averse. And then when you have infinite money, you can take all the risk in the world. So that's kind of the way it works. But just be careful. That's a very good point. If you're above 50, focus very hard on keeping what you've made. That is magical.
I think you should do a show on that, James. I think you should do an InvestAnswers show on that. Age, demographics, and investing.
Curves, lots of curves, because it does depend. But
absolutely.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Well, thank you, team.
Show.
Thank you, man. Don't forget links below, everybody. Thank you to the moderators in the chat. And everything is with risk as well. There's nothing without risk. Even cash is with risk. Thank you, CTO. Thank you, Mando. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, guys.
Happy Monday. Let's hope we still get a little bit of Moonvember action. We're not done yet. We've got 20 days left, and all the action happens in the back half. But we've been saying that since October, and that hasn't happened. So
my prediction is a sideways chop, like you said, to the trend line 110. And then the December 1st, see what effect Jerome Powell has on the market, and people will front run the QE, and that'll probably be Q1 to Q2. So the front run could be the beginning of the year. The 1st of January, you could see a massive candle.
And Bitcoin is at $7,000 in 3 days, which is not bad. Not bad at all. Considering it was that's a 50% gain from the bottom at 15,000 a couple of years ago. Thank you all. You're legends. Links below for this team. Follow them everywhere. Have a great week, everybody. See you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.